Okay, the final item of business today is a members' business debate on motion 20521 in the name of Michael O'Mara on publication of Level Up Scotland, a national action plan for the Scottish games sector. The debate will be concluded without any questions being put. I'd invite members wishing to participate to press the request to speak buttons, and I invite Michael O'Mara to open the debate. Around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It's a pleasure to welcome the publication of Level Up Scotland, a national action plan for the Scottish games sector, and to recognise the value of Scotland's games sector to our national economy. Can I thank all members across the chamber who supported this motion for an industry which can be an ever greater engine room of growth for our economy. I also welcome Brian Baglow, founder and director of the Scottish Games Network, to the public gallery today, as well as the many in the Scottish games sector who I know are tuning in online. As co-convener, along with Claire Adamson, MSP, of the cross-party group on the Scottish Games ecosystem, it has been a privilege to be a part of this action plan taking shape since the first meeting of our cross-party group in 2023. And I wish to give credit to the authors of the report for the breadth and depth of their consultation undertaken in its preparation. In common with almost every family in Scotland, gaming plays a daily role in the life of my household. Minecraft, Rocket League, Fall Guy, Among Us, Roblox, and a deep emotional, almost spiritual investment in the world of FIFA. But it is the economic impact, particularly in my home city of Dundee, that led to my work and on behalf of Scotland's games sector. The games sector in Scotland already generates £151,382 in GVA per head, more than double the Scottish average. For too long, I think the Scottish Government has been an analogue operation in a digital age, and the pace of technological change is the fastest it has ever been and the slowest it will ever be again. Grasping the opportunity that is contained in this plan is just one step towards embracing that reality and all it entails. The action plan aims to make Scotland the UK's first games supercluster by 2030 and a global leader in creative technology. It recognises the unique opportunity that Scotland has, with key players in the industry situated within reach of each other in Glasgow, Edinburgh and Dundee. There are also others in other parts of Scotland, of course. But the report's recommendations are ambitious yet practical, with a 2-year pilot to deliver strategic alignment across portfolios, set up a pilot fund to support new intellectual property and leverage private investment, to establish a National Games and Skills Education Forum to identify skills gaps and connect each stage of education and professional development, and to launch a dedicated service providing business support and mentorship to new and growing studios. The plan seeks to build on the fruits of that 2-year pilot to establish a National Games Innovation Centre to drive long-term growth and cross-sectoral innovation. I do look forward to hearing the Minister's considered response to the contents of the plan here tonight. If I turn to Dundee, Presiding Officer, the contribution of the games industry in my home city to this global industry is something for Dundonians to be very proud of. Grand Theft Auto, Minecraft, Lemmings, all household names, not just across Scotland but across the entire world, as parts of the world's largest entertainment industry. These titles... Yes, certainly, sir.
Martin Whitfield.
I'm very grateful to Michael O'Mara for taking the intervention and indeed compliment him on getting the debate tonight. I was going to scold him in part as he mentions Dundee and the growth in the area, because of course 4J Studios, that began life in East Linton and East Lothian, now has a small but significant outlet in Dundee which supports in particular Minecraft and other developments. Would you agree with me that actually the games industry is an industry for the whole of Scotland, and our size would allow us to do that, but obviously with areas that we need the expertise to grow in?
Michael O'Mara, I'll give you the time back.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I fully agree with my colleague, Mr Whitfield. I think the partnership between Chris van der Kuyl and his business partner, Paddy, whose surname I can't recall, were a great partnership that have those... and actually, I think the real willingness to invest in their own communities, both in East Lothian and in Dundee, to support jobs, shows actually the potential to set up these smaller clusters, these studios, that can actually support high-value jobs in diverse parts of our country. And I would say, though, that there is a critical mass that can be required and can help in terms of the clustering effect. And our universities are actually a really instrumental part of that. And as an example to that, I would talk about, obviously, the University of Abertay, again, in Dundee, and the in-game project, which they led alongside the University of Dundee St Andrews, which has upskilled thousands of people now working in the sector. In 2023, the economic analysis for in-game showed they were expected to generate a total of £84.7 million of GVA over 10 years, supporting around 175 jobs. Strategic investments that I think help grow our economy. And it's that tangible impact of these innovative studios, investment, high-value jobs, supply chains, attracting people to Dundee and to the wider region. The question must now be how we can rapidly expand the industry, building on our own track record of innovation. Finland is a fine example. They've built a €2.5 billion mobile gaming industry from the legacy of Nokia and hits like Angry Birds. A real example of what can be achieved with the right focus to scale appropriately. I want to touch briefly on issues that have risen recently. Members will be aware of some growing concerns of precarious work and reports of anti-trade union actions and negative working practices in the sector. I think it would be remiss of me not to mention that tonight, given that members will have been contacted in this regard. It's right that we recognise the challenges that these kind of cultures and practices pose for the health both of workers and the success of the sector as a whole. And government should carefully consider how to ensure workers are protected, that talent is nurtured, and how people's right to organise is protected here in this industry and everywhere. I am proud to champion the games industry in Dundee and for Scotland. It provides young people with real opportunities for the future that, yes, draw on our city's proud history in the sector, but look with hope towards the future in the world's largest entertainment industry. There are new studios, new games and innovations happening all the time. I'm sure we'll hear of some of them tonight from other members. And future generations can credibly look forward to being a part of all of that. That's why the action plan is so important. It sets a clear path for Dundee and the wider Scottish economy to capitalise on the huge opportunity in front of us. Mark Logan rightly challenged all of us at the launch of the plan at Codebase here in Edinburgh to think about how we can move beyond our pioneering games history and write new stories of success for our national future. And I wish to conclude by quoting from Marx, not Karl Marx, but Marx Watanabe, from a wonderful novel on finding purpose in work and the joy of gaming by Gabriel Zavin. The quote is, "What is a game? It's tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. It's the possibility of infinite rebirth." And therein lies our chance of building something ever more brilliant for Scotland. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Mara. We move to the open debate. I call first Claire Adamson to be followed by Maurice Golden. Around 4 minutes, Ms Adamson.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Thank you to Michael Mara for introducing the cross-party group and the work that we've been doing with Brian Baglow and the games sector to get to the publication and launch of Level Up Scotland, a national action plan for the Scottish games sector. This is about more than a report. It does give us a roadmap for Scotland's future in the sector that is dynamic, creative and globally recognised. It's been said the games industry is not just about entertainment. It drives innovation, it creates high-skilled jobs, it can showcase Scottish talent around the world. And we should remember that gaming as such and gaming technology seeps into lots of different areas of our lives. We're looking at the gamification of healthcare, to use the video screens, the joysticks, virtual reality to actually work with people and treat conditions close to my heart. My son has a condition called CRPS, and one of the ways of treating that is using a visual device to do a cold therapy treatment that involves people going for a walk in the Arctic in their room to try and desensitise the pain syndrome at that time. So it's used in so many aspects of our lives. Games engines are used not just for the development of the games, but also in the film industry, which of course is a booming sector in Scotland. And all of these skills will be there for the future. We also have developments in AI and the impact of what that might bring. And to have Scotland at the forefront of that, I think, is ambitious, but not beyond the means of the Scottish people and the games sector here to achieve those ambitions. The plan focuses on 3 key priorities: talent and skills development. So that's about nurturing the next generation of developers, designers and technical specialists. Unlike Mr Mara, I am not surrounded by gaming in my own house, other than a Wednesday night Discord session to play Dungeons and Dragons, still with dice, at the other end of the computer screens. But and for the avoidance of doubt, as I've said before in this chamber, I'm chaotic neutral for that respect. And but I do see it through the eyes of my son, who's a teacher, primary teacher, and he's using games in some of the interactions he's doing with his pupils. I see it with my grandchildren, learning, using things, not just the exciting games, but using things like Minecraft and other games to actually build and create themselves. And that all builds on the creative aspect of what makes us human. So this is new. It's something that we're coming to terms with as a creative industry, still trying to find that place for it within the cultural landscape of Scotland. But I do think that we're making strides to do that. And this report gives us a firm foundation of how we can build on that and truly embrace the creativity, the excitement and the opportunity of the games system. And a little shout out for the Yellow Baby, which was almost our Angry Birds. Not quite, but another viral game to come out of Scotland. And I'm sure one of many that we'll see in the future. But a huge congratulations to the Scottish Games Network. Thank you for their engagement with the cross-party group. And a special thank you to Mr Baglow for all the work he has done to drive this through. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Adamson. And now Cornwallis Golden to be followed by Daniel Johnson. Around 4 minutes, Mr Holt.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And I'd like to congratulate Michael Mara for submitting the motion and bringing this debate to Parliament this evening. Can I start by welcoming the publication of the National Games Action Plan by the Scottish Games Network. Scotland's gaming sector is a shining example of what is possible when entrepreneurial talent, creativity, innovation and technical expertise come together. The sector is one of Scotland's greatest modern-day success stories and international exports. And as the Scottish Government considers the recommendations of this action plan and the financial commitments involved, it is important to remember the games sector already has a proven track record of success. This is not simply a funding request, it is an investment in growth. It is not about rescuing a struggling industry or backing a speculative venture, but about supercharging a sector that is already thriving and delivering real economic and creative impact. Scotland's video game industry delivers exceptionally high productivity, generating over 150,000 in gross value added per employee, more than double the Scottish national average. The Scottish Government should seize every opportunity to grow the sector further, creating even more well-paid, highly skilled, export-driven jobs while attracting investment, strengthening regional economies and retaining skilled talent. The Action Plan calls on the Scottish Government to recognise games as a national priority, provide strong leadership and coordination, invest in studios and talent, support skills development, back regional hubs like Dundee, and promote Scottish games on the global stage. These measures are designed to ensure the sector can grow sustainably, delivering real economic and creative impact across Scotland. Dundee exemplifies why this support is so important. The city is the birthplace and beating heart of Scotland's video games industry. Its success began with pioneering studios such as DMA Design, the forerunner of Rockstar North, and continues today through a thriving cluster of independent studios. The role of Dundee-based companies in the development of iconic games such as Grand Theft Auto and Minecraft cannot be understated. Central to Dundee's global reputation is Abertay University, one of the world's first universities to offer dedicated courses in video game development. Abertay has supplied generations of highly skilled graduates who have shaped both the local and global industry. Through the delivery of the action plan, there is an opportunity to recognise Dundee's unique role and for targeted support to strengthen its cluster. This includes backing local studios through funding and investment, supporting Abertay and other educational institutions to extend and expand their skills pipelines, and promoting Dundee as a centre of excellence within Scotland's wider games sector. By building on Dundee's historic achievements and leveraging a world-class talent and infrastructure, the action plan can help cement the city's position as a global leader. Deputy Presiding Officer, I fully support the motion and encourage the Scottish Government to use all the levers at its disposal to support the action plan and call upon them to set out in full how they will engage with the plan's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr Gordon. I now call Daniel Johnston to be followed by Liam Kerr. Around 4 minutes. Mr Johnston.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. And can I thank you for your tolerating me slipping out early, given that I have a reception that I'm sponsoring this evening. But I was very keen to speak in this debate. I count myself part of a lucky generation because I grew up with computer games. I got my first computer, a ZX Spectrum, one Christmas in 1984. I then had a Nintendo Entertainment System. SimCity just about ruined my hires. And indeed, I'm not ashamed to say that I built my own PC about 2 years ago, and I get somewhat distracted by a combination of Rust, City Skylines and Assetto Corsa. You see, this is the thing, and the point I'm trying to make is that I think sometimes we talk about computer games as though they're things for kids, a curiosity and a niche interest, and they're not. I think for many people my generation, they are something that are part of their lives and continue to be so right the way through adulthood. And indeed, I think if you actually look at how people use games, increasingly people don't think of themselves as gamers, young or old. They're people who use games. Even my mother likes to play Scrabble on her phone, and my wife is pretty addicted to Wordle. They're gamers, whether they realise it or not. Games are pervasive as the devices that we have in our pockets. And yet, I think when you look at the Level Up strategy, I think we recognise that we still have a disjointed approach to how we're thinking about computer games and the computer games industry. It's calling for focus, leadership and a plan, coordination across policy areas, a focus on skills and a skills pipeline through skills, and funding and investment. That shouldn't need to be asked. This is an industry that we've apparently been saying is a jewel of Scotland's business and industry, and yet it's calling out for things that I think you should say are standard for businesses that we support and that we seek to nurture. I think our approach to games and the games industry is stuck in the 1980s, and we need to get it up to speed. Because it's also a different kind of industry. This isn't just about people sitting lines of code. In fact, I think very few people working in the games industry probably write lines of code. This is about writers, designers, artists, people that will be involved with the marketing, finance, the legal side of the gaming industry. This is why it's a $250 billion industry globally, and why we have a £350 million share of that. So let's get serious. Let's have a plan. Let's have the leadership, and let's make sure we get the investment so we can have the next Grand Theft Auto born in Scotland. And let's also be clear about this. Gaming is pervasive, and I think we need to understand this isn't just about games as a discrete part of the economy. Increasingly, as people spend time on games, earning money that can earn the money in the real life, games and the interface between games and real life will start to look far less defined and far more blurry than we realise. So we need to take the games industry serious. It's a Scottish success story, and we should back it with a plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Johnson. And I call Liam Kerr to be followed by Faisal Chowdhury. Around 4 minutes. Mr Kerr.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm very grateful to Mike O'Mara for lodging this motion today and the opportunity to make a short contribution, because the Level Up Scotland report and the strategic direction it sets out for Scotland's game sector is a serious and evidence-led plan that recognises the sector's economic value and, crucially, the need for better coordination across skills, education and enterprise support. And in these difficult economic times, particularly for the North East, I particularly echo Mr Mara's comments in his motion that parliamentary debate on something that scales the economy in the way set out in the plan's ambition would be very welcome. But my brief contribution today is to make the point that whilst we have rightly heard a great deal about the contribution made by and in Dundee, it's to put on record something that Martin Whitfield actually brought up in an intervention earlier about how this is very much nationwide, because there's also very strong and growing activity in Aberdeen, Aberdeenshire and the wider North East, such as at the North East Scotland College, which has been delivering industry-linked partnerships and e-sports provisions and investing in specialist facilities. It's been building school-to-college partnerships and securing recognition for its work in digital education and inclusion. Now, in practice, what that looks like is a very innovative collaboration in which Nescol became the first Scottish college to be part of PlayStation First, which is Sony Interactive Entertainment's global academic programme. And that gave the college access to PlayStation development tools and support, which enable the students to use the same hardware used by professional studios to build for PlayStation platforms. And furthermore, Nescol HND Games Design students have worked with Kemnay Academy pupils through the Wood Foundation to build a VR game demo, which is aimed at helping users learn sign language. It is a true partnership project where the school has the idea and the college team then builds, delivers and ultimately has the pupils visit to see the results of, at the Aberdeen City campus, the demonstration that's been made. And finally, following the launch of the eSports Hub at Fraserburgh campus last year, Nescol has expanded the principle to the Aberdeen City campus to give computing students access to advanced gaming equipment. And let's be clear here, that game engine at Nescol, the point that was made earlier, is not only about games development, it's about transferable, vital skills which lend themselves to things like the energy transition or farming. Now, at the same time, Robert Gordon University continues to strengthen its progression routes and degree-level provision in this area, helping to retain talent in our region and support the skills pipeline that this action plan rightly emphasises. In fact, both of Aberdeen's university are hosting game jams, which provide opportunities for students to come together, get a brief, and over the following days build an actual game. So, Presiding Officer, it really is good that Mike O'Mara has given us the opportunity to highlight not only this important report that provides a clear strategic direction for this sector as a whole, but to showcase the excellent work being done throughout the North East and indeed Scotland. And I very much look forward to the Minister's response to this important debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kerr. We now come to the final speaker in the open debate, Faisal Chowdhury. Again, up to 4 minutes, please.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I thank my colleague Michael Mara for holding this timely debate. Lothian region is reaping the benefit of having a significant game sector employer, Rockstar North, located in Edinburgh. I'm confident that the region would only continue to benefit from the future expansion of that sector. Therefore, I thank the Scottish Game Network for offering such a detailed plan in their report. I would like to focus on the report's ambition to create a robust talent pipeline. Whilst I welcome the report's recommendations for how to do this, more must be said about the needs to strengthen the right of game workers. Current protections are insufficient. The situation forces many game workers to leave the sector and can pursue new talent to avoid it altogether. Last December, I visited workers who were dismissed from Rockstar North Edinburgh without disciplinary hearing and with the absolute minimum notice. The independent workers of Great Britain, IWGB, trade union, is helping these workers challenge their dismissal. The dispute is symptomatic of the broad problem with the employees' right in the sector. The industry has been blighted with layoffs since 2022, driven to some extent by reckless investment during the COVID-era boom. The Games Developer Conference, in their 2025 State of the Game Industry report, states the following: layoffs have become part of the industry, with announcements now weekly, if not daily, occurrence. Unsurprisingly, a wave of unionization has begun to pass through the sector. The game workers branch of IWGB grew by almost 50% between 2022 to 2023 and has continued to grow since then. It's not just layoffs. The infamous crunch period regularly sees employees forced to work unbearable length of overtime in the land up to the release of the game. There are concerns that pay and the arrangements for residuals do not provide adequate rewards for the developer and the other staff. Developers could choose to work elsewhere, including defence, virtual reality and the wider tech industry. To keep them in the sector, we must strengthen their rights as employees. For example, the report recommends the creation of a Games Scotland body. Trade unions must be represented on any such bodies. If we share the Scottish Games Network's desire for a robust talent pipeline, we must take steps to ensure that games workers are given the rights and privilege they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chowdhury. I now invite Richard Lockhead to respond to the debate. Around 7 minutes, Minister.
I'd like to begin by thanking Michael Mara for bringing forward this debate and for highlighting the publication of the Level Up Action Plan for Games, and congratulate Michael Mara, Claire Adamson as well, for being great champions of the games sector in Parliament, along with other colleagues as well. And I thank all colleagues for their contributions to this debate. I clearly, at the beginning of my remarks, want to recognise the great work and pay tribute to Brian Baglow, who has been an invaluable advocate for the sector and has helped myself as Minister, my officials and the Government more widely gain an even clearer understanding of the cultural, the economic and the social contributions that games make to Scotland. And I can remember back in 2023 when Shona Robison, MSP, and myself on behalf of the Government met Brian and a number of senior representatives and experienced representatives of the games sector in Parliament, and where the idea emerged of Brian carrying out this work and having an industry-led games plan for Scotland, which of course he has now brought forward and published. So, as the plan says, as many members have said, Scotland has played a truly formative role in global video game culture. And landmark titles, again often quoted by members in this debate, such as Grand Theft Auto and Lemmings, both born in Dundee, have shaped entire games genres and reached hundreds of millions of players worldwide. And of course, there's been other contributions as well, particularly in terms of education. Again, as members have mentioned, Abertay University, I was there just a few months ago, for the umpteenth time, has established the world's first dedicated video game degree, and that happened back in 1997, and remains consistently ranked among the top universities globally for video game design by the Princeton University Review. And the pioneering spirit has cemented Scotland's international reputation as a place where creativity meets cutting-edge technology, again, as many members have said as well. And today that legacy continues. We have 135 computer games enterprises in Scotland. That's an 800% increase from 15 back in 2010. And some of the most successful and influential games in the world are still being developed here. And of course, it's in all parts of Scotland, as many members have said. I have a couple of games companies in Elgin that have had chart-topping games, and that's Code Wizards and Hunted Cow. So I know in my own doorstep that this is not just about Dundee, which of course has led the way and blazed the trail, but as other parts of the country are benefiting from our growing games sector at the same time. And Grand Theft Auto, the most iconic game franchise, whose new title is anticipated to be the biggest launch in entertainment history, and Minecraft, with over 300 million copies sold worldwide, of course, are household names. And I can associate with Michael Mara's comments because I feel as if I should own shares in those titles because of my two sons and their history of playing video games, the amount of Lochhead investments gone into buying these games over the years as well. And it's funny because when I was a teenager, I remember one of my friends getting the ZX80. I didn't own one of those, but I remember seeing it, showing my age. And of course, a couple of years after that, I got a ZX Spectrum as well, and I got addicted to Jet Set Willy, Match Point, 3D Death Chase, Manic Miner, and a number of other games as well. And that was the ZX Spectrum. And of course, it was only a few years ago I learned the ZX Spectrum was manufactured in Dundee. And it's because the ZX Spectrum was manufactured in Dundee that led to the emergence of the games industry coming out of Dundee. And now it's, of course, a national phenomenon. And Chris van der Kuyl and Paddy Burns, well-known figures clearly from Dundee in the games sector and behind some of these big titles, told me the story about how that led to coding amongst local young people and school children and so on, and others who worked at Timex, and then that led to where we are today. So that's a fantastic legacy and a great story that we should tell the rest of the world over and over again. So from these indie developers and co-working hubs to globally recognised studios, our games community spans, of course, the gamut in an entire country at the same time as well. And I think a really important point to make, and why this is very timely for the plan to be published, again as a theme that's been touched upon by many members, is that gaming technology is about innovation, it's about cutting-edge technology, and it's not just about games. That technology is being used by prosthetic companies I've used who use gaming technology. It's been used by the military. It's now incredibly important to healthcare, not just in terms of games and apps being developed in the game sector for promoting health and helping people with their health, but also in terms of surgeons using gaming technology and so on and so forth, and also finance. I mean, one of the companies in my constituency, I think they told me they had a banking app that they produced as well. So the financial sector is also benefiting from games technology. So I agree with the thrust of what many people were saying, is that we have to recognise this as a nationally valuable innovation in Scotland that affects so many different parts of our economy. The games sector, but right across the economy at the same time, because it's at the cutting edge of innovation. In the last couple of minutes, of course, I should refer to the fact that the Government has been supporting the games sector. We've stepped up our support for the sector in recent years. Our Ecosystem Fund supported Scottish Games Weeks, and that's shone, of course, a spotlight on the remarkable strength and diversity of the sector, and a point that was made and recognised during a members' debate on this subject back in 2023. And as part of our Tech Scholar programme, we took a cohort of 10 game start-up companies out to Japan a few months ago as an opportunity to meet and learn from some truly influential global leaders, as well as to attend the Osaka World Expo. And I was there as Minister, helping to lead that delegation, and I was with games companies from Dundee, Glasgow, Edinburgh and elsewhere, and it was fantastic to see them taking their products and their ideas and vision to that important games market of Japan, which is massive in itself as well. And of course, in September, just a few months ago, we were thrilled to host the prestigious DICE Europe conference here in Edinburgh. We took a leading role in shaping the conference and satellite activities surrounding it to welcome and showcase all that Scotland had to offer to the major global companies attending, which included Nintendo. I personally met the chief executive of that a couple of times, and it was great to talk to him about what's happening in Scotland in the game sector, Xbox and Epic Games also amongst others as well.
Michael Mara.
The Minister for giving way. I recognise he's probably coming towards it at the end of his time, and he's setting out some of the right support that the Government is giving to the sector. Would he commit to meet with the authors of the report and perhaps come and speak to other members of our cross-party group at some point in the immediate future, so we can go through this in some detail, and we can look at the recommendations and see what action the Government can take to support it line by line?
Minister.
Yes, I would be delighted to do that, and I'm hoping to catch up with Brian Baglow since he formally published the report. He did meet me before that to give me an indication of how it was getting on and what it was heading towards. And, of course, now I've read the final version, but I'm happy to meet Brian again and also colleagues from across the chamber, perhaps at the cross-party group, which does a fine job, if that's something you'd like to happen before the 26th of March, Deputy Presiding Officer, which we have to make sure happens as well. I should also say the First Minister hosted some of these leading games executives during the DICE conference at Bute House in Edinburgh as well, and he was very impressed by what he was hearing in terms of feedback about Scotland's game sector and global impact and leadership as well from these prominent companies that were at the table, including some Scots, of course, as well, who were there. So in terms of the plan, I just want to say it's an impressive plan. It's obvious a huge amount of work's going into it. It touches all the right buttons. As a government, of course, we're going to carefully consider the recommendations in the plan. We all know that the parties will have the opportunity of their own manifestos. We'll have a new government elected in a few months' time. But this is a very timely report. It's got a lot of really good ideas within it. Of course, we'll just have to take time to reflect on what we've read in the report, and we'll do that in due course. And, of course, the cross-party group, as we've heard before, is playing an important role in keeping this high up in the agenda in Parliament. So thank you again to Brian Baglow, everyone who contributed to his report and his plan, and all members today, and Michael Mara for bringing forward this debate.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I close this meeting of Parliament.